Hollywood lies, a lot. The Old West wasn't all clean cowboys and heroic shootouts. It was dirtier, deadlier, and far more complicated than the movies make it seem. Real history was full of grit, struggle, and moral gray zones. But every once in a while, a Western gets it right. These rare films go beyond the myths, capturing the true essence of the frontier, the people, the hardships, and the harsh realities they faced. Let's dive into the 12 most historically accurate Westerns ever made, the ones real historians actually respect. Ride with the Devil, 1999. Most Westerns shy away from the Civil War's messy middle, especially the guerrilla warfare tearing apart Missouri and Kansas. But Ride with the Devil dives headfirst into that chaos. Directed by Ang Lee, this film isn't your typical shoot-'em-up. It tells the story of bushwhackers, Confederate irregulars fighting a brutal, personal war along the borderlands. The film captures the era's political tension, class divisions, and racial complexities with surprising depth. One of the film's most historically impressive elements is its inclusion of real figures like William Quantrill and his infamous raid on Lawrence, Kansas. Even more rare is the character of Daniel Holt, a black man fighting for the South, a nuanced portrayal based on historical fact that Hollywood usually ignores. The attention to dialect, period-accurate clothing, and the rugged, unforgiving landscape all reinforce the authenticity. Ride with the Devil doesn't glorify violence or wrap history in myth. It shows the personal cost of war and the blurred moral lines that define the frontier. It's messy, intense, and most importantly, real. Shane, 1953. At first glance, Shane looks like a classic Western, lone gunman, dusty town, evil cattle baron. But underneath the iconic tropes lies a surprisingly accurate look at post-Civil War frontier life. Set in Wyoming's open range during the 1880s, Shane captures the real tension between homesteaders and ranchers, a land conflict that tore communities apart as settlers pushed westward under the Homestead Act. The film reflects the historical reality of range wars, where cattlemen fought to preserve their grazing rights, often violently opposing fenced-off farmland. Unlike many westerns of its era, Shane doesn't paint its conflict in black and white. The ranchers aren't cartoon villains, they represent a fading way of life. And Shane himself? He's not just a hero, he's a man haunted by his past, shaped by a violent world that no longer fits him. The film also gets the period details right, the tools, clothing, and even the speech feel grounded in reality. Shane may be romantic in tone, but its foundation is rooted in the real struggles that define the American West. Young Guns, 1988. Young Guns might look like a stylized, MTV-era Western loaded with 1980s attitude, but don't let that fool you. Beneath the flashy casting and outlaw swagger lies a surprisingly accurate portrayal of Billy the Kid and the Lincoln County War. Historians have praised the film for sticking closer to the real story than most Hollywood takes on the infamous outlaw. The movie follows Billy and his gang of regulators, young deputized gunmen seeking justice after their benefactor, John Tunstall, is murdered by a corrupt rival faction. That's not fiction, that's history. The Lincoln County War was a real and bloody feud between competing business interests in New Mexico during the late 1870s, and the film captures the chaos and lawlessness that followed. Young Guns also gets points for portraying Billy as he likely was, not just a cold-blooded killer, but a charismatic, impulsive teen drawn into violence by circumstance. The film's mix of style and substance makes it one of the rare westerns that entertains while staying shockingly close to the historical truth. Geronimo, An American Legend, 1993. Few westerns tackle Native American history with the care and accuracy shown in Geronimo, An American Legend. Instead of romanticizing or vilifying its subject, the film offers a respectful, fact-based portrait of the legendary Apache leader and the brutal reality of his resistance against the U.S. government in the late 19th century. Starring Wes Studi as Geronimo and Gene Hackman as General Crook, the film doesn't shy away from showing the broken promises, betrayals, and forced relocations that defined U.S. Native relations. It digs into the tension between Geronimo's refusal to surrender and the Army's growing frustration, capturing the emotional and cultural devastation of colonization. The dialogue, costuming, and depiction of Apache traditions are impressively researched, lending authenticity to the narrative. What sets this film apart is its humanization of all sides, even the soldiers grappling with the morality of their mission. It's not a one-note tale of good versus evil. It's history told through real, flawed people caught in a painful turning point. Geronimo, An American Legend is a rare Western that tells the truth, and honors it. The Assassination of Jesse James by the Coward Robert Ford, 2007. More than just a Western, The Assassination of Jesse James by the Coward Robert Ford is a haunting, poetic character study rooted deeply in historical truth. Set in the final months of Jesse James's life, the film meticulously reconstructs the events leading up to his infamous murder in 1882, not with gunslinging spectacle, but with quiet dread and psychological depth. Brad Pitt's Jesse James isn't a folk hero, he's a paranoid, aging outlaw, scarred by years of violence and betrayal. Casey Affleck's Robert Ford isn't just a coward, he's a complex, fame-hungry admirer whose disillusionment turns deadly. The film captures the strange intimacy between the two men, echoing historical accounts of Ford's obsession and James's unraveling. Director Andrew Dominik leans heavily on period-accurate details, the clothing, lighting, speech patterns, and even real letters and newspaper clippings. The mood is slow, deliberate, and unervingly authentic. There's no myth-making here, just the harsh reality of what fame, betrayal, and legend can do to men. This isn't just one of the most accurate westerns, it's one of the most honest. Monty Walsh, 1970. Monty Walsh isn't about gunfights, glory, or gold, it's about what happens when the West starts to die. Set in the 1890s, this quiet, elegiac film focuses on aging cowboys facing the end of the open-range era. It's not flashy, but that's what makes it so historically powerful. The film nails the slow, inevitable shift from the wild frontier to a more modern, industrialized world. Lee Marvin plays Monty Walsh, a cowboy whose skills are becoming obsolete as barbed wire, railroads, and big business transform the land. Instead of chasing outlaws, he's breaking horses and watching friends settle down or fade away. The film accurately captures the loneliness, dignity, and stubborn pride of real working cowboys, not the romanticized version seen in most westerns. From its worn saddles to dust-covered towns, everything feels lived in and real. Even the dialogue reflects the dry humor and grit of men who've spent their lives under the sky. Monty Walsh doesn't mythologize the West, it mourns it. And in doing so, it delivers one of the most honest depictions of frontier life ever filmed. McCabe and Mrs Miller, 1971. McCabe and Mrs Miller may not fit the traditional mold of a Western, but that's part of why it's so historically accurate. Directed by Robert Altman, this film shows the harsh, gritty realities of the Old West, focusing on the rise and fall of a small town in the Pacific Northwest during the early 1900s. The film doesn't glorify the frontier, it captures the rawness and desperation of frontier life, where survival was more about practical skills than heroic feats. Warren Beatty plays John McCabe, a gambler-turned-saloon owner, while Julie Christie portrays Mrs. Miller, a sophisticated madam. Together, they try to build a profitable business amidst corrupt businessmen and the violent frontier environment. The film's portrayal of economic struggles, class tensions, and human frailty is grounded in history, especially the exploitation of the poor and the way the West was shaped by money and greed. Altman's use of natural dialogue, grimy settings, and ambiguous characters makes McCabe and Mrs. Miller one of the most authentically complex films about the West, showing not just the violence, but the mundane, often overlooked parts of life. The Alamo, 2004. While many westerns gloss over history for dramatic flair, The Alamo, 2004, seeks to faithfully recreate the 1836 battle that became a turning point in Texas' fight for independence from Mexico. Directed by John Lee Hancock, this version doesn't just focus on the heroic final stand, but on the real motivations, personalities, and events leading to the siege. The film gives a detailed look at the leaders of the Texian army, including figures like Davy Crockett, Billy Bob Thornton, James Bowie, Jason Patrick, and William B. Travis, Patrick Wilson, each portrayed with a complexity that mirrors historical accounts. The film accurately reflects the diversity of the defenders, not just Anglo-Americans but also Tejano and former slaves, who all played crucial roles in the battle. Though some creative liberties are taken, such as condensing timelines and characters, the attention to period details, from the clothing and weapons to the terrain and fort design, adds authenticity. The Alamo offers a more grounded and respectful look at the legendary siege, focusing on the real sacrifices made during this pivotal moment in history. Ulzana's Raid, 1972. Ulzana's Raid stands out as one of the most unflinching depictions of Native American warfare and the complexities of frontier life. Directed by Robert Aldrich, the film centers on an Apache war chief, Ulzana, who leads a deadly raid against settlers in the Arizona Territory. What sets this film apart is its realistic portrayal of the Apache, not as faceless savages, but as a highly organized and strategic force fighting for survival in a rapidly changing world. The film doesn't glorify either side, it shows the brutal violence of both the Apache and the U.S. cavalry. Burt Lancaster plays the seasoned cavalry officer, who, along with a young and naive lieutenant, played by Bruce Davison, must track down Ulzana and his warriors. The film contrasts the brutal tactics of the Apache with the calculated military response, providing a more nuanced view of the conflict. Ulzana's raid captures the rawness of the Apache resistance against the U.S. government, showing not just the fight for land, but the deeply personal stakes for both sides. It's a gritty, historically accurate portrayal of frontier warfare and the moral complexities it entailed. How the West Was Won, 1962. Sprawling, ambitious, and visually stunning, How the West Was Won attempts to cover nearly a century of American expansion, and surprisingly, it gets a lot of it right. Told through 5 interconnected segments, the film follows several generations of a single family as they experience key moments in U.S. Western history, from westward migration and the Civil War to the building of the railroads and the lawless frontier towns. What makes the film historically compelling is its broad yet grounded scope. It doesn't just show one corner of the West, it shows how the frontier evolved through time, with real-life historical events like the California Gold Rush, riverboat travel, Native American displacement, and the rise of the railroad. While the story takes creative liberties for drama, the settings, technology, and social changes it portrays are based in fact. From pioneer struggles to Civil War battles to the railroad tycoons reshaping the land, How the West Was Won offers a sweeping, if romanticized, visual history of how America expanded, and the cost that came with it. Time may pass, but true legends never fade. These weren't just stars, they were dazzling dreams brought to life. Relive the glamour, the grace, and the golden era. Like the video, comment your favorite icon, and subscribe to Golden Age Icon, where vintage magic never dies.